Chapter 2 of Billie Bradley at Treasure Cove by Janet D. Wheeler. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Bombarded. Billie Bradley looked wildly about her. "It's an earthquake," she cried. "Oh, dear, what next?" Next was a series of harsh explosions that frightened the girls badly and sent them scurrying to the trees for shelter. "What is it?" gasped Vi Farrington. Laura Jordan had a dreadful thought. "Billie," she gasped, "those explosions come from the direction of Boxton Academy." The powder house!" cried Billie, going suddenly white. "It must have blown up. Oh, there it goes again!" Another explosion, worse than any they had yet heard, burst in waves of sound against the girls' eardrums. Again the ground shook beneath their feet. Billie Bradley clasped hands to ears and began to run. "Where are you going?" wailed Vi. "Billie! Billie! Wait! You are running right toward it." "I'm going to find out about Chet and Teddy." Billie flung back at her companions over her shoulder. Her face was white, and the set of her jaw determined. "If the boys are being blown up, I intend to be—" "At the death," finished Laura. "So do I," and she began to run, stumblingly, after Billie. To those who were already acquainted with Billie Bradley and her chums through the previous volumes of this series, their actions now in running toward danger and not away from it will seem wholly natural. The daring trio had never been known to avoid danger. Since their first adventures together, those recorded in the initial volume of the series entitled Billie Bradley and Her Inheritance, the girls had faced whatever peril presented itself without flinching, bravely overriding any obstacle in the path of their ambition. In all their activities, Billie Bradley, dark-haired, dark-eyed, and full of vigor, was undisputedly the leader. It was she who had found the trunk in the attic of the old house at Cherry Corners, a trunk filled with a treasure of rare coins and valuable postage stamps. When sold, the collection brought Billie a sum of money that permitted the girl to fulfill one of her dearest ambitions. Not long after the discovery of her odd inheritance, Billie Bradley proudly enrolled as a student at Three Towers Hall. Violet Farrington and Laura Jordan entered the boarding school with Billie. Three Towers Hall was a beautiful place with its towers and ivy-covered walls. The girls loved it, and they loved the ground surrounding it. They loved the lake, beautiful Mulata, with its shimmering water and its many islands, and the point at the farther end of it. Altogether, that first semester at Three Towers Hall had been a time well worth remembering. Later, the girls spent an interesting vacation on Lighthouse Island, and still later, back at Three Towers Hall again, succeeded in unraveling a mystery. The solution of this mystery brought undreamed-of happiness to a poor widow and her 3 small children. In the volume directly preceding this, entitled Billie Bradley at Twin Lakes, Billie and her chums encountered that experience already mentioned, the meeting with the mysterious drudge, Huldah, and her later identification as Myra Bassinet, the daughter of the noted artist of the same name. The girls lived, when not at Three Towers Hall, at North Bend, a town of about 20,000 inhabitants, 40 miles by rail from New York City. Billie's family was small. It consisted of her father, Martin Bradley, a dealer in real estate and insurance, her mother, a charming woman whose name was Agnes, and her brother, Chetwood, Chet for short. Laura's family was small too. Her father, Raymond Jordan, owned a controlling interest in the great jewelry factory at North Bend, and the small fortune that he made yearly was at the disposal of his wife and 2 children. As a consequence, pretty, fair-haired Laura was a little spoiled and inclined to want her own way more than was strictly good for her. Teddy Jordan, her brother, also fair-haired and blue-eyed, was a likable, manly lad and a general favorite with both boys and girls. Violet Farrington had neither brother nor sister, but she had scarcely felt the lack because of her palship with Richard Farrington, who was her father and the leading lawyer in North Bend. "Dad is like a brother, and Mother looks so young she might easily be my elder sister," Vi was wont to say. "So if I've missed anything by not having a real brother and sister, I'm sure I've never known it." Ferd Stowing, a comfortable person to have about, because of his pleasant habit of making other people comfortable, often completed the sextet of young folks. It was of these boys and of others at Boxton Academy that the girls were thinking now, as they sped toward, not from, the scene of the terrific explosions. Boom! Another detonation shook the earth. Something whizzed through the air so close above Billie Bradley's head that she gasped and flung herself flat upon the ground. They heard the object strike in the woods not far from them. There was a rending, tearing sound, and the limb of a tree struck the ground. That's what it would have done to my head," stammered Billie. She sat up cautiously and looked about her. "What was it, girls?" she asked. "Did you see?" Each of the others shook her head. Vi was trembling so that she could hardly stand. "Must have been a cannon shot," she said. "You might have been killed, Billie." "Don't I know it?" Billie got up quickly and started out over the lake. "If the boys are using that new big cannon they've got for target practice," she said, with a game, unsteady laugh, "I wish they'd turn it the other way." The words were scarcely uttered when there came several detonations at once, a deafening, nerve-destroying surge of sound that drove the girls back toward the shelter of the woods. Instantly the place was bombarded by flying missiles. Whether these were bullets or bits of hurtling rock, the girls did not know, and did not stop to find out. They dashed madly into the woods, driven by an appalling dread to find refuge somewhere, anywhere, from the rain of death. They stumbled against a huge rock and huddled behind it. "Better than nothing," gasped Laura. "There, something hit that time." Limbs of trees fell all about them. There was a continuous rending and tearing as though a giant tore endless bolts of cloth. A branch fell so close to the girls that points of it caught in Laura's dress and ripped it damagingly. "An inch to the left or an inch to the right, and we wouldn't be cowering here tonight," misquoted Laura, trying to disengage what was left of her skirt. "There's another," gasped Vi. She raised her arms above her head protectingly as another limb crashed down upon the first. "My hair is caught!" Billie cried. With trembling fingers she released her hair from the grip of the branches, Vi helping her. Explosion followed explosion. The noise was deafening, terrifying. With hands pressed close over their ears, the girls crowded close to the rock, hoping that it would prove a real protection. All the time they thought, how about the boys? If the powder house at the school has blown up, what about them? Presently there was silence, a silence so intense that the girls could almost hear their heartbeats. It was an odd silence, filled for the girls with dread. "Are we all alive?" asked Laura Jordan. "I am, for one," replied Billie. Her attempt to speak in a natural tone was not an unqualified success. She looked about her and found that they were almost entirely hemmed in by fallen branches. "Prisoners!" she cried. "Well, girls, it looks as if we might have to cut our way out." "Listen!" exclaimed Laura. "I thought I heard someone call." End of Chapter 2.